The big spin heel is a lot easier than it looks on a fingerboard. To clear up any confusion, a big spin heel is when the board does a 360 rotation towards you as well as a barrel roll away from you while your fingers do a 180 in the same direction. In other words, a big spin heel is a combination of a frontside 180 and a varial heel flip. 3 tricks that are really going to help you learn this trick are frontside heels, frontside big spins, and varial heels. So if you haven't already, check out my frontside heel, frontside big spin, and varial heel tutorials so you can master those first. But even if you can't do those tricks, I'm going to teach you everything you need to know in this video to do a big spin heel. Step number 1, where to put your fingers. You want to place your index finger in the middle of the board and your middle finger on the tail of the board. Some people find it easier to have their middle finger on the middle of the tail, but for me personally, I find it's easier to have your middle finger on the edge of the tail that's closest to you. Some people also like having their index finger on the edge of the board that's furthest away from them, but I prefer to have my index finger in the middle of the board so that there's more of the board for my index finger to catch on and I can get a proper heel flip rotation. Step number 2, popping the board. The key to this trick is to do a scissor kick with your fingers so that you pull your index finger towards you and push your middle finger away from you. Because the board is already spinning towards you with a big spin heel, you don't need to flick your index finger off the edge of the board, and the motion of the board spinning towards you will make the board flip as long as your index finger is on the grip tape. In other words, the front shove part of the big spin heel basically does the flicking motion for you. You really want to focus on your index finger making contact with the grip tape and aim for the edge of the nose that's furthest away from you. This is going to help you hook your index finger around the nose, which will help get the board to complete the 360 front shove rotation. This trick has a lot more to do with your index finger getting a good flick than it does with doing a good 360 front side pop shove. Really focus on hooking your index finger around the nose so the board can complete the full rotation. It's also important to not think so much about scooping the tail against the ground to get it to spin, and to instead focus on popping the tail against the ground to get it into the air. I like to think of it as if I'm doing a simple front 180 but pushing my index finger away from me as I pop, rather than scraping the tail against the ground to get it to start spinning. The finger positioning is also super important for this trick because having our middle finger on the edge of the board that's closest to us is going to make the board want to flip like a kick flip when we pop. And this makes it easier for our index finger to make contact with the board and make it flip like a heel flip. A good way to ease your way into a proper big spin heel is by putting your board out in front of you so that your tail is pointing towards you and you're riding away from your body. That way you don't have to turn your wrist as much. Once you get more comfortable with doing big spin heels from this position, you can gradually start to turn your wrist more and more back to your regular ollie position. One thing to keep in mind is you don't have to completely turn your hand so your palm is facing away from you. What a lot of people do to make the rotation easier and make the landing look more stylish is bend their index finger and keep their middle finger straight. That way your index finger and your middle finger are still landing in the same position on the board, but you can keep your hand and wrist turned at a 90-degree angle rather than twisting them the full 180 degrees. The key to this trick is to lead the rotation with your index finger to make sure the board follows your fingers in the air. As long as your front chucks are turning and doing the full rotation, the rest of the board will follow. For some people, it can help to look at this trick from a different perspective. For example, you can think of it as a frontside heel with an extra front shove or a frontside big spin with a heel flip. For me personally, it really helped to think of this trick as a laser flip with a body varial because I'm a lot better at laser flips than I am at varial heels. I also have a tutorial on how to do laser flips, so I highly recommend you check that out as well. But if you're still struggling with getting the rotation, try doing a big spin heel by breaking down the individual parts of the trick in different ways. Another example of this would be to do a varial heel and then land on the nose so you can pivot the rest of the 180. Or you could do a varial heel where you land at a 90-degree angle so that you can power slide the rest of the 180. This will help you get used to the rotation, and you can eventually work your way up to rotating the board and your hand in the air without having to slide your wheels on the ground. Step number 3, consistency. Big spin heels are one of those tricks that like to go all over the place. It took me a long time to be able to land them every try, so here's a few helpful tricks that I learned to pop them higher and land them more consistently. If you're finding that your big spin heels are over rotating and spinning more like a 540 laser flip, try turning your fingers towards you. This is going to slow down the spin a lot and give you a lot more control over the board. When you have your fingers straight on the board or turned away from you, the board naturally wants to spin more and it tends to not stay directly under your fingers. If your big spin heels keep over flipping like a double heel, try not to overcomplicate things and focus on doing a simple front 180 but have your fingers in the big spin heel position. That way you're not going to accidentally flick the board too hard with your index finger and you can focus on getting a solid pop of the board. Focusing on doing just a front 180 can also help if you're still over rotating the board. That way we're not forcing it to spin, and the way our fingers are positioned will naturally want to make the board spin away from us. Big spin heels are a lot easier than they look on a fingerboard, and while they can be an easy trick to learn, they are a very difficult trick to master. And if you want to learn some other easy tricks, check out my other tutorials like my 1-hour video where I explain every basic fingerboarding trick in detail. Once you master all of those tricks, you'll be looking like a fingerboard pro in no time. And let me know if there's any other tricks you'd like me to teach you guys in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and make sure to subscribe for more tutorials like this.